6. Very late, but I managed to make it at the very last cut off to still be able to do one today, so the streak still counts, existing. I think that's been a week we've been doing these again, like, you know, consistently or consecutively, or whatever, however you want to word it. And in this one, we're going to continue our build of the dropship. So this live will be an hour. I'm not doing any more than that. I just want to get a decent amount of this built and go from there. Because I'll admit, I have been in work pretty much all day, right up until about an hour ago. And I'm in work for 12 and a half hours tomorrow. So I want to get the right amount of sleep for that. So I do want to first of all apologise for the time of the live stream. It happened a bit almost half an hour later than it was meant to, but that was just due to some issues. But other than that, we're going to get started. I'm going to quickly look at a text message I've got here. But yeah, because I'm working all those hours tomorrow, this live, I don't know, we'll do a decently length one. We'll do an hour. I want to get more progress on that dropship, because what I really want to do is I have talked at length about how I want to redo the shelving. But the last 2 times I've redone the shelving, I'd forgotten that I had the dropship to still rebuild. So I was setting it up and going, I'll build the dropship later. But I feel I'd have to have the dropship out in order to get a real idea of the size and spacing. So yeah, there's that. But I'll admit, I've missed having this on the shelf. The dropship from 2009 is such a cool set. I want it back on my shelf. I've got an idea already. This top shelf is going to be all Imperial stuff. Cause I've got the Star Destroyer, the Super Star Destroyer, a bunch of TIE Fighters, a couple Imperial shuttles and stuff. So that'll look really nice. The Endor bunker, that'll look good going across the top. You'll have the Republic stuff going along this way, then Rebels, and then some, you know, Separatist stuff, and kind of just miscellaneous, whatever. That's going to look cool. I need to quickly sort the place a little bit. Like I said, I have been at work all day, so I've not had the time to do this. And trust me, I am so very tired. I don't expect this live stream to do well. Especially seeing as they do better when they have an accompanying can I not say that word? An accompanying short, you know, to set up that the live's happening. I did mention in a short earlier that I was going to post it like on the community tab thing, but I have no idea how many of you actually look at that. I don't know if it's a big number or a small number. I don't really check it. So, for all I know, like 2 or 3 of you could have looked at that and just silently acknowledged it or said nothing. I don't. That way, means the same thing. But I'm getting started. I'll change that camera angle in a moment. I'm going to get a drink and we'll go from there. Like I said, this will be a flat live, just an hour. 1 sec. So I'll get that drink and I'll come back and we'll get started with the live build. Before I go, this is how far we got with the dropship last night. We got the handle, this back frame, and all the very intricate Technic system that helps it pick up a dropship. So I'll be back. We're probably going to be building the nose, if I had to make an educated guess in this one. Right. Hey there. Alright, we're going to get started in a moment. Right. But yeah. I don't know how much we can do in an hour, to be honest. To be fair, in the I think we spent 2 out of the 3 hours yesterday doing it, and we got quite far. And that is the most complicated part of the build. Done. No, the right time-consuming part of it is done. Trust me, I've got a lot. I have, I'll show some of it now. The shelves need redoing, but I've been working so much lately. React to the Red Lights music video by Straight. I'm not gonna react to a music video. One, I upload my streams after I've streamed, so I'd get. Cause yes, I'm Scottish. I upload the streams as their own videos when they're done, because I've got people who like to watch these in different time zones who can't quite make it, so I leave them up so they have the ability to enjoy the stream. Plus, it means these streams continue to earn and get views, so it makes sense. It's content. So if I was to put anything like a music video on, which would, I presumably, unless it's copyright free, which I highly doubt and I'm not taking the chance, the video would get flagged for copyright and no one would be able to watch it, or it would restrict it heavily. So no, I don't really feel like doing that, and I'm not a reaction channel. I don't mean to be that guy, but we genuinely just put like random nonsense on the background. So the set that we've been building or rebuilding since this is a set that got smashed. Yeah, I paid taxes. It's a weird question. Anyway. I have actually watched quite a bit of that. One second, I'm trying to fix the table. It's being weird. So the build we've been working on is the Republic dropship. Now, this is one of those ones I had to rebuild as it fell from my shelf when putting up some new shelving. People have been asking me how the hell this broke. I'm gonna, in the last couple of streams, I think I'm, one second, I'm looking for something. I am probably gonna have to make a short explaining what happened. Because weirdly enough, that has been heavily requested for some reason. Well, my short content on here does well enough to the point where I actually wouldn't mind doing that. So I need to get the digital instructions. But no, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is quite an entertaining show, to be fair. It's weirdly quotable, right? I'd never heard of it until a bunch of, like, a few people had mentioned it to me over the years, but I never actually watched it. And I was over with friends and they got me to watch the show. And you know what? As weird as it is, it's so weird that the weirdness makes it so enjoyable. And there's a part of that show that's far too relatable, and it's the bit where they're all in work. After, following the suitcase, no, the briefcase guy. Right, one sec, I'm trying to find what the hell I did with the remote. Some things are in some dumb places. I left work in a crazy hurry. Yeah, this morning. Ugh. So I've been using digital instructions. This is a set that I've owned for almost 2 years now. The AT-OT that comes with this is on the shelf over there. It's fine. But essentially, this set has 2 bits that come up. I kept this part out because I knew to tell the story. Essentially, the set has a bit like that on either side. Now, they're meant to be for detail only, right? They are meant to look like the clamps, magnetic clamps the vehicle would actually use, rather than, the Technic system that actually holds up. They just sit on the sides like that, off the wings as details. My friend sat this down on the shelf, but he done it like this, near the edge, on these, and it just, the slightest tap, and it went like that, and it came from about a height of all up there, bang, down to the floor, and that was it. And despite all the Technic inside it, it just, for whatever reason, didn't survive. Because it's one of those builds I would have thought would have survived semi-decently falling from a shelf. Turns out I am 110% complete on those bugs. I was very wrong about that. You know what? 5 likes already. And we've only just started a stream that I didn't properly advertise. I'll take it. So I'll get up the digital instructions. This is a set I bought used a couple weeks back with no instructions, but that was for cost-cutting reasons, because I found the ultimate deal on this set, and it's the only way I would have ever afforded it. Right, I've done that step. I've done that. I've done that. Yes. Alright, so we're on to building the actual bits he balanced it on, which caused its destruction. So I'm going to put some stuff on in the background just for my own entertainment, as well as interacting with you guys. But if I'm honest, I don't think too many people will come to a stream happening this late and this advertised. Press that HDMI switcher, and that should be it. Right, okay. So like I said, also I'm sifting for a great bunch of parts. Now, the benefit that I have is a whole bunch of these parts stayed pre-built. Like the wings are still structurally fine. So I didn't bother breaking the wings up after it fell, because I tried building it, but it was just so messed up in areas. This other wing was fine, salvageable. The front cockpit, the bottom of it was even salvageable. We didn't have to take that apart. Same with the odd few piece chunks that I know what those are. Those are modules that like can detach, so they survived. But pretty much all the Technic stuff kind of burst apart in a way. So that's like full rebuild territory. Right. Let's get started on this. See how much fun this ends up being. There's not too many parts left in this, so I say not too many. Like there's not a crap ton, so it shouldn't be too much for a long build. We're not going to finish it in this stream if that's what you're thinking. But we're building these little feet that go on the end of this. I would have thought the cockpit would have been next, but I think I was shocked the same way when I built it the first time. It's because we're working on some of these Technic modules. Right. And I need to stop putting the controller on the laptop trackpad. That would help. Yeah, I'm going to get my drink and then we'll get continuing. Right, let's get something on. No, I don't want guest mode. I want my account. Duh.
Nowadays, we've kind of gotten used to seeing in The Simpsons is a cartoon that seems to have been around forever. A cartoon that has a lot of games, with some being extreme bangers and some being extremely terrible.
Right, so obviously this is the main section that you're seeing here. Let's continue with these side bits. I do apologise if the commentary in this one's not ideal. I am just that tired.
The story for the game is that Smither steals a diamond from Mr. Burns, and after colliding with the Simpsons family, the diamond lands in Maggie's mouth. And instead of just taking the diamond out of this child's mouth, he straight up kidnaps her. Now, I know I'm no criminal mastermind here, but I feel like there could have been a few steps before the kidnapping of a literal child. But it is the Simpsons, so I guess that works. After Maggie's
but again, these bits are primarily decorative.
The voice actors in the show
look
also
alright.
voice characters in this game.
Hey, how's it going? We're building the 2009 Republic dropship.
Like, what even is that? But for a 33-year-old game, this game was a lot of fun, and I'd actually love a remake or at least a port to modern consoles for this game. Bart vs. the Space Mutants, also released in 1991, and honestly, this game felt like a complete fever dream. One of the most important aspects of
I'm using digital instructions because I don't own instructions for this set. It's kind of how I got it. So I've owned this set for 2 years, but I want to rebuild it, like I said. And it's online free PDF instructions, like very low format ones. I'll show you what I'm on about.
Really wasn't the best.
They're not the best quality instructions we're using, but it kind of does work.
It's a classic Game Boy platform that has you controlling Bart around Camp Deadly, with enemies being the classic cool guys with sunglasses. The gameplay was all sort of really simple. You can jump and spit at enemies. It was hard to rate this game, as it's so simple it got boring, but then on the other hand, there really wasn't anything to put this game down any ratings either. Bart vs. the World, another game about Bart that released in 1991, and this time, instead of saving the world from space mutants, Bart takes part in a worldwide scavenger hunt, set up by Mr. Burns, of course. And this game is split up into 4 major areas. China.
So how's everyone doing anyway? How was their Saturday since we're now technically on Sunday?
The levels are full of your typical enemies and power-ups that can give you extra health and other stuff. I thought this game was a decent improvement on Bart vs. the Space Mutants, but it's still just not great. Bart's House of Weirdness, released in 1992. At this point, I'm wondering, do the developers of these games know that there are countless other characters in The Simpsons and not just Bart? But I'm just gonna start by saying this game was complete shit. Like, look at this. Look how much fun I'm having. Okay, I'm not going to shit on this game. At the time this game was released, being able to walk around the Simpsons home was kind of cool. But as a platformer, this game just didn't hit the right spot for me. The levels are laid out with goals, like collecting coins.
I was going to try and concentrate and get this technique done before we... I'll break the commentary will start again. I apologise.
The controls are like
try to concentrate on this. It's quite a bit of concentration goes into those crappy instructions.
Match with a random enemy, missing so many shots that you run out of ammo. I just really didn't enjoy this game. It's easily the worst I've played so far. Now, after a bunch of Bart games, it's surely time for another Simpsons character's moment in the limelight, right? Yeah, it's Bart. It's Bart again. Bart vs. the Juggernauts, released in 1992. But I mean, at least this game isn't a platformer, but still.
Yeah. So this when it fell, I tried rebuilding it initially, and it did slightly was successful.
For the 90s was kind of the norm.
Doesn't make sense. The problem I had was it just wouldn't stay together. I think there was some issue of the Technic frame was wrong because that needed some rebuilding, and I'm like, I can rebuild the cockpit or the neck off the top of my head because it's quite easy, but like the whole Technic system, there's no danger I was able to fix that so easily. So I just opted to take it apart and put it in this box, which I'd conveniently put earlier that day, but
and Krusty's Funhouse featuring The Simpsons. They really just had to add in featuring The Simpsons, just in case you didn't know. Krusty's Funhouse was a very weird game, and straight away from the title screen, you got an ominous Hi Kids.
So that's kind of like the main Technic part of it. We're gonna get the.
But I don't think I've ever played a game similar to this. The premise for the game is there are a bunch of mindless mouse that you have to guide to this machine that kills them. Like, seriously, in my life, I've never seen or played a game like this. I actually like the graphic style though, especially on Krusty. Like, look how compact he looks. But after an hour of playing Krusty's Funhouse, I just couldn't take it anymore and got really bored. And after that small break away from Bart games, he pops right back up with Batman Meets Radioactive Man, released in 1992. The title for these games are getting so wild. But Batman Meets Radioactive Man plays like a basic side-scroller, nothing special. And I can't be the only one that absolutely hates the sound design of these old games. Listen to this, sounds like a needle just piercing.
Yeah, I'm alright. How are you? We're just building the dropship.
It would just be the word boring. Seriously, there's around 1 million games released around the same time, exactly the same as this, just without the Simpsons license. Bart's Nightmare also released in 1992, but thank God, this time they actually tried some new things.
You subscribed? Hey, thanks. We're rebuilding a set of mine that fell off the shelves a few months back. Finally got the chance to rebuild it. Last night we worked on all the inner Technics. Now we're just working on the wings. Or the these are like the magnet things for picking up the walker.
You'll never guess what happens in this world. That's right, everybody. It's windy. Absolute cinema. Mailboxes and Jebediah Springfield heads flying everywhere. But if you survive long enough in the windy world,
yeah, thanks for subscribing. That's always a greatly appreciated.
Our
goal this year is 2,500. We're not far off
excitement
that.
really begins. In total, there are 5 mini games, and these were actually really
Right,
cool.
okay,
There's
so I already
Indiana Jones
technically
level,
have that
a
mostly
Godzilla
built,
level. There's even a
because
level where you
these
get
didn't
injected down into
disintegrate
somebody's
when the
bloodstream,
set
and I'm
went.
pretty sure that level was Dexter Morgan's brainchild. But I can't talk about Bart's Nightmare without talking about the graphics, because this game looks amazing. It's so colorful and just so early 90s that I just really enjoyed this game. And with the years of 1991 and 1992 finally over, we end the busiest era in the Simpsons games.
I
9
only bought
original
this one
Simpsons games
because I was
released
able
in
to get a deal
1991
on
and
it.
1992.
It's one of those
So many
sets that
games
is
coming out
quite
in such a short
expensive.
time, it's kinda
Part of the
strange
deal
that
is I
next game
don't own
released in
instructions, so I've had to use
1994
digital
completely
ones.
missing out 1993. Itchy and Scratchy Miniature Golf Madness, released on the Game Boy in 1994. The goal for the game is to complete each mini golf level while dealing with obstacles and dodging the murderous Itchy, who comes after you with guns, knives, and bombs. Like, Itchy in this game is an Avenger level threat. Like, seriously, why
This
does
is
a
that
mouse
magnet
unlock
thing
a
I'm on
level?
about.
But to be fair to this
So
game, it really
basically, I'd
captures that
stood
Itchy
this
and
the
Scratchy
set has
vibe
two
of
of
the
these,
show,
right?
but the gameplay
And he
for
had
this game
stood
really
it
surprised
up on
me.
one
I
of
was
these.
expecting
On the
like a
back of
Tiger
these,
Woods type
watch,
game
like,
disguised
these
as a
just
Simpsons game,
easily,
but really
I'll
this
see you
game is a
later, these just
platformer
easily
that has
kick out,
both.
so that's how
You
the
get
set
9
fell.
lives to complete each level because you get it, he's a cat. But overall, this game was pretty fun. Bart and the Beanstalk, released in 1994, the same year as Itchy and Scratchy Golf Madness, and you can probably guess what this game is about by just the name. Yeah, this is a parody of Jack and the Beanstalk, with Bart taking the role of Jack. And as this game was released on the Game Boy, the gameplay is pretty basic. There were some points in the first level where you physically can't see where you're jumping to, though, which I'm guessing caused a lot of kids that played this game to jump to their doom. Honestly, this was one of the more forgettable
I'll need to build that
games.
all
Nothing
again,
amazing,
but
not
yeah.
horrible neither. Since the release of VR consoles like the Oculus
So I'm going
and
to put this to my
PSVR,
side
virtual reality
and
has slowly become a
reconstruct
very
one
popular
identical.
form of gaming, and people seriously love it. Some people may take it too
Apart
far.
from that and the
I'm
wings,
talking
there's not
about
too
you
much like
furry man
repetitive
295
building in
who
the
sits
set,
on
which is
VR
kind of
chat
one
all
of its
day
ups.
talking to your kittens.
I'm one of the people who invented cancel culture, bitch!
If you've watched The Simpsons, they kind of have a knack for predicting things. Virtual Bart, released in 1994, and now this game right here, this felt like an actual fever dream. Idea for Virtual Bart is that Bart somehow gets trapped to this virtual reality machine, and as the machine stops spinning, it'll land on a mini game. The first one being this water ride mini game, and I don't know who they think we are,
Right.
but nobody's
I'm not going
reaction
to
time is
say too
fast
much.
enough to dodge half these
At this
things.
point, I'm just going to
The
try and
controls in this
quickly
level
get
were
this
so
other
difficult.
one,
The next
identical
level I
one, just
played was Pork
constructed.
Factory, and Junior Bart gets turned into a pig with one of the most cursed character designs ever. Like, we really need a low-budget horror movie about this level. The Itchy and Scratchy game, released in 1995, and this one is it's bad. It's really bad. So each level is pretty much his own episode and boss battle, with you playing as Itchy, and your only goal is to kill Scratchy, and that's it. With the game being called the Itchy and Scratchy game, I at least thought we would have been able to switch between characters, but no, you're Itchy, and that's that. I really don't know the thought process behind this game. Like, it's called the Itchy and Scratchy game. Like, let me be the cat, man. The Simpsons Cartoon Studios, released in 1996 on PC, because it's 1996 and we have finally unlocked computers. But if you know the power of PCs from the 90s, then you can probably already guess that this game isn't going to be a platformer or anything similar to what we've been playing. In fact, the Simpsons Cartoon Studio was a game that let you make Simpsons episodes.
Yeah, we're building another one of
I gotta say
these.
that's just cool. Like, finally some creativity.
Don't know what the hell we're
if I
doing.
was alive and I was a kid around the time this game came out, I would have 100% played it. The game is laid out like an editing software. You can drag and drop images onto the scenes to create sets, and you can get kind of crazy with the sets, but for what this game was, it's actually really cool and really unique. So far, we haven't had a game that's allowed us to explore the iconic Springfield, but all that changes with Virtual Springfield, released in 1997. Made for the PC once again, Virtual Springfield was a point-and-click game that let you explore Springfield, which for fans of the show around this time was probably sick, and I was worried when I started playing this game that it would be bare and empty, but actually, there's a decent amount going on. You've got collectibles and a bunch of other Easter eggs hidden around. Just an overall cool experience. It's crazy to see how far and how many Simpsons games have already gone, and even then, we still have so much to go. We're up to the weird era of Simpsons games, starting with The Simpsons Bowlins, released in 2000. The Simpsons Bowling is an arcade game made by Konami, who also created the first Simpsons arcade game. Now, this game isn't Wii Bowling.
Hey, you're back,
but
good.
it wasn't
So
awful
that's
either.
where we
You
are
get
at.
to
We're
spin
just
a bunch of
working on
characters
a
from the
second
show,
one of
Homer,
these,
Lisa, and Krusty.
which are, again,
Each
these are just
character having different
decorative,
stats, but I'm
but
pretty
because
sure
my
those
friend
stats don't
sat
actually
the set
affect
on
anything.
those
The
when it was on
gameplay
the
is
side of the
really
shelf, that's how
basic.
it
You can
fell.
control the power of the ball
If you, it was on actually, it
accurate
might be
and
doing a
time to get
live
most
stream
power.
on
This
TikTok
was
actually.
exactly what I expected this game to be, but still,
I
for
used
an
to stream on
hour,
there
it
quite
was
a bit.
kind of fun. The Simpsons
Yeah,
Wrestling
look, that's
was
all right.
2001, and when I
Go
say
to
this
bed.
may be the worst wrestling game ever made, I mean it. And
Have
I'm
I seen the
actually a
movie
big fan of
Star
wrestling
Wars?
games. I practically grew up playing and watching wrestling. I was that kid that made my parents watch me do the Jeff Hardy dance in complete silence. And due to me playing some absolute banger wrestling games growing up, yes,
Go to
I'm
bed.
talking about you SmackDown versus Raw.
Trust me, that's what I'm doing after this, but
I'm
I'm at
able
work
to see
all
how
day, so
bad
this
The
helps me
Simpsons wrestling really is.
rewind.
Starting up, you get to
Plus,
choose
I
between a
do
few
daily
characters
streams
from
on
The
here,
Simpsons,
and I
where their
don't like
pictures
missing
looking
doing
like
them.
they took 20 minutes to make in MS Paint. The gameplay is spam central, with you just having 3 moves per character. And with this one move for Bart,
But yeah, how is everyone doing today? Well enough, right?
That's impossible
Favorite
to
Star Wars
control.
movies:
The
Return
graphics
of the
for fighting
Jedi.
characters isn't terrible.
I am a big
If you
Clone
take
Wars
a few
fan, hence we're
seconds
building a
just to look
Clone
outside
Wars
the ring,
set
you
right
see
now,
those
but
cursed 2D cutouts of other Simpsons characters.
well, we're
Seriously,
rebuilding
though,
this
the
one. It
developers
fell off
should
my
be ashamed to
shelf
release
a
this
while
and call it
back.
a fully fledged game. Not only is there only 12 characters, with each character only having 3 moves, that's 36 different moves in a wrestling game. And the majority of these moves are a punch with a slightly different animation and throwing different objects. Like, this one was really bad. The Simpsons Night of the Living Treehouse of Horror. Yeah, that's the actual name of the game. Released in 2001 for the Game Boy Color. And every level of this game is based on a Halloween episode of The Simpsons, which is kind of fun. This game is mostly a platformer, which you could probably expect from a Game Boy game. The controls in these platform levels, though, are really bad.
I've got the DeLorean up there, which is the big one. I've got the small DeLorean.
And after just playing Simpsons Wrestling, at least this game had a decent amount of different levels.
I've got 2 of the cars from Lego Indiana Jones. I've got a mystery machine as well. I've got a few Lego cars now. Think about it.
Peak era of Simpsons games, starting with the Simpsons.
I was at
Outrage,
work
released
pretty
in
much for
2001.
12 hours,
I don't know if I'm
but
allowed to say this, but growing
I'm
up,
not
I
one of
played
those
this
who can
game
just
way
come
more
home
than I
and
played
go to
Simpsons
sleep.
Hit
I
and
need
Run.
to
Like, I
relax,
actually love
and I've
this
been
game
building
as a
this
kid.
on
The gameplay
stream, so I
loop for
wanted to
Simpsons Road
continue
Rage is a
building
crazy
this.
taxi type of game where you get to choose between a bunch of characters and
What do you
drive around
believe is the
Springfield,
truth
picking
of
up and
your
dropping off other
species?
characters from the
I
show.
don't
And
know,
this is the
alright?
first time you can
A
actually
part of me
freely
likes
explore
not
Springfield,
knowing
and as a
because
kid,
part...
this actually blew my
See,
mind.
for
It
me
gave
as a
the same
kid with
feeling
Star
as when I
Wars,
was able
part
to
of the
swing around
appeal
New
was
York
the
in
mystery.
Spider-Man 2. I would spend like
And I'll
countless
admit,
hours just driving around
that's one of those
Springfield.
kind
I
of
was
things that's kind of
worried
cool to
returning to
wonder
this
about.
game,
It would be
and
nice to get an
even the
answer, but I've
memories
never
I
really
have with this
thought too
game.
much into
By
it.
my surprise, Road Rage still holds up a lot. Even the feel for driving still feels pretty good, and the graphics feel ripped straight out of the show. Such a peak game. If you played this game growing up, you'll know how good it is. Okay, I may have
Right,
said we were
okay.
entering the best era of Simpsons game, but even
But no, the
this
reason we're
has a
building
bad
this
game,
is it
okay?
fell off my
Simpsons
shelf
Skateboarding,
when
released in
redoing the shelving,
2002, during
or
the peak
building
of
new
skateboarding,
shelves.
with so many companies
Due to the way
trying
my
to jump
friend
on the
had
hype of
placed
Tony
it,
Hawk games. And with Bart
because
being
he's
an avid skateboarder,
as I said, that
it
he's
does
unfamiliar
kinda make
with.
sense, but holy
And to be fair,
shit, they could have at least
he had
put a bit more
sat it
effort
on
into
these
these
which
games.
hang
The
down
premise of
like
this game is
that,
pretty straightforward.
and
There's a
you would be
skateboarding
forgiven for
tournament taking
thinking
place
that
in
these are
Springfield, and it's your
stands.
job to win the grand prize
Set
of a
what slight shake, set plummeted to the ground. This was back in November, but I'm only now just got the chance to rebuild this.
I have no idea. But to
So I've
be
been going
honest,
through
the
my Lego
premise of this game
backlog.
is the least of its issues. So there are 10 levels, with each level having 3 game modes. Like, it's very simple, right? Except the game is one of the most
I'll show you guys the
games
shells
ever
if you
made.
want in a
So
moment.
the first mode is called Skill School, which is pretty much the game's introduction to its various tricks, while also rewarding you with points you can spend on your character to boost their stats. How it works is that you have 5 levels to perform the tricks individually, and then a final level to do all of them in a certain amount of time. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it would be simple if this game was any good, with the controls being absolute shit, and as a result making these simple objectives an absolute nightmare, and bringing the whole game to a complete standstill, taking every drop of enjoyment out of it. So far we've played 20 Simpsons games, but we still have a lot of people's favourite Simpsons games to go. If you grew up in the 2000s and remember driving around Springfield causing absolute chaos, or breaking boxes and collecting gold coins to get the best outfit in the game, the Moo Moo, then you grew up playing The Simpsons Hit and Run. Released in 2003, this game, which could have just been another licensed Simpsons game, has gone on to be an absolute cult classic. One thing that separated this game from other licensed games that released around the same time.
But we're half an hour in, I felt progress is being made, which is good. I was worried that I would start, but I wouldn't be progressing immediately. I thought, oh no, there's a chance they'll short this stream, and I'll be stuck for 20 minutes trying to find one piece, which, let's be honest, that can happen.
I like to call The Simpsons Hit and Run a Grand Theft Auto clone, and I do see that. I mean, I'm not blind here. Due to other Simpsons games releasing around the same time being clones of other games, just with the Simpsons license slapped on it, it would be easy to call this game a GTA clone, but it's just so much more than a clone. And for the people like me who were too young to be playing GTA 3 and Vice City, this game was most likely your first exposure to the open world genre. One thing I loved as a kid was all the Simpsons Easter eggs. As a massive Simpsons
Gotta
fan,
rebuild
just
this
walking around
bit
the
here.
Simpsons house and being
We're
able
just
to
about
go into
done
the
this,
back garden
section.
and see the crappy swing, or go next door to the Flanders house just absolutely blew my mind. This game also separated psychos from the normal people. Like, did you A, walk up to Marge and click to start the mission, or B, commit domestic violence by kicking the living shit out of her? And I'm not going to say which one I did. The gameplay loop of Hit and Run is pretty simple. If you drive into a character to start a mission, which will most likely be a get to this place before the timer runs out, or a race that for some reason were always so difficult. But why is it called Hit and Run? Well, you see this meter right here? If you hit cars and other Springfield residents, that will slowly rise, causing police to chase Homer down. Now, that does seem kind of similar to a certain Wanted level in another game, but anyway, I feel like this game will always have a place in kids' hearts that were born in 2000s. You want to feel like a kid again? Just load up Hit and Run and boom, you're back.
There we go. That's both of these constructed. So we had sat the set on both those on the shelf, but those give out really easy because they're not structural. Yeah, well they do have some structure to them, but they're pretty much just looks. So now I need to make a Technic bar that joins them both together. But in the Star Wars universe, these bits would go down and anchor onto the walker, but obviously with Lego that won't work, so it's got this contraption here.
Characters on the go, with each character having different abilities. One really cool thing in this game was the cutscenes. They look like ripped straight from the show, with the voice actors returning to voice their characters. This game is laid out in levels, which
hey, welcome to the stream. How's it going?
Chocolate Land. To break up the levels, there's an open world hub area of the game set in Springfield, but to me it didn't quite have the same charm as Hit and Run and felt really empty. I just felt like this game kind of struggled to find its own identity. Itchy and Scratchy Land was a game released on iPhone in 2008 that was an adventure game that unfortunately for this video I was not able to play. But there was also a Simpsons arcade mobile game released in 2009 that was kind of similar to the 90s version, just worse. And here we go, the one to bring tears to everyone watching, The Simpsons Tapped Out, released in 2012, and a game that got taken off the App Store on October 31st, 2024. And when I tell you I grinded the shit out of this game as a kid, I mean it. I wasn't a Clash of Clans kid, I was a Tapped Out kid. And even though before it got taken down, I hadn't played it in years, just seeing a game I spent so much of my childhood playing get shut down was so sad. So just rest in peace to The Simpsons Tapped Out. There was also a few levels in Lego Dimensions that included The Simpsons, but I didn't feel like that was a Simpsons game. But I will just add it at the end here.
Slight adjustment to
every
this.
Simpsons game ever made. If you guys
You're just joining, we're building the Republic dropship
and I have a Discord. The link is in
from
the description.
2009.
Here is one fact about every...
Christmas 2010.
One second, I'm just looking for something to put on the background.
From Jeeps
Random
on
video
Rails
just found.
to the train busters of World War II. Coming up on this B12 production special, we're talking all about how militaries have used the railroad. These days, trains
So
loaded
when
down
you get
with
these
tanks
microphone
and other
pieces
armored
and go from
vehicles
there,
turn a
so
lot of
one
heads.
there.
But these are actually more common than you'd think. And while the military trains you see today are not usually used on the front lines, that was not always the case. From the trench railways and giant guns of World War I, to the innovative way the Allies landed rail cars and locomotives on the beaches of Normandy during the Second World War.
And there.
Trains have always helped
Is there a rubber
warfighters
band?
get the job
You don't
done.
need. No, there is.
So what does a present-day armored train look like? And what
Yeah,
happens when a
right.
military train
So these are the
derails? All that
big pieces.
and
You got to
more
use
is next
rubber
on this
bands on
B12
those. So you
production
get the
special.
two bands. One and two. So those cross. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw a mod on Star Wars
Hello
or
and
just any
welcome to
Lego
this
set with
V12
rubber
production
bands.
special, and thanks for
Comment
joining
if
us.
you know one
Today, we're discussing how the
a current
US Armed
set that uses the
Forces
rubber
and
bands.
some other countries have used trains over time. And we'll begin by looking at how the American military utilizes the railroad in the 21st century. Now, it's pretty common to see military equipment transported by rail. This train was passing through Atlanta, Georgia in January of 2026. It was loaded down with Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and other armored
You
transports.
see the rubber bands are on.
Now,
Ready.
CSX operates this train over its railroad, but much of the equipment rides on Department of Defense flat cars.
They're not very tight, these rubber bands, I will be honest.
Rail fan or not, trains like these get everyone's attention. And they may also raise some questions like, where do they go, or how are all those vehicles loaded? Well, trains
Right,
like
let's
these
try and
may be headed to
attach
maneuvers
this
or training
in.
exercises somewhere in the U.S. They could also be in transit from the factory to a military base. Other vehicles transported by rail could eventually be taken off the train and shipped overseas. In addition to vehicles, some trains carry supplies and munitions. Ultimately, railroads would be critical in mobilizing the country for war. That's why they
There we
were
go,
used
we're
by
starting to
militaries
get that
around the
drop
world
ship
for
look
well
again.
over 100 years. And yeah, the U.S. Army does have its own locomotives. They're mostly older engines from General Motors Electromotive Division. But the Army also has some modern motive power like gensets that run off of multiple small diesel engines. And at the end of 2025, an all-electric locomotive was revealed at Fort Hood in Texas. Large military installations like Fort Hood have railheads where equipment can be loaded and unloaded. Ramps are typically
We'll make
used
one
to
of those
load
little
wheeled
bits.
and
It's
tracked
got just
vehicles.
it's a
And
bit to
wheeled
balance it
vehicles
out.
can roll from car to car using special bridges.
Hey there.
Tracked vehicles don't need these. Cranes may also be used to load equipment along with forklifts. Everything is then secured to the rail cars. Now, operations like this don't just happen stateside. Members of the U.S. Armed Forces also move their vehicles and supplies by rail in other countries. This footage was shot at U.S. Army Garrison Humphreys in South Korea. Notice how, even though the rail cars are being used overseas, they still have U.S. markings. And this video shows soldiers unloading empty rocket pods in Poland. It looks like some military vehicles were also customized to help soldiers get the job done. This half truck, half locomotive was photographed at the Camp Carroll railhead in Korea.
That did happen when I built this last time.
The cargo on these trains is right up there for everyone to see, but some military trains fly under the radar, so to speak. Here's a munitions train passing through Cartersville, Georgia. It really blends in with other trains on the rails, and you can see the military sees the value of using intermodal shipping containers to move its supplies. But as far as moving troops around, well, planes have filled that role. Now on the railroad, accidents do happen from time to time, but take a look at how well these military vehicles were chained down. As a taxpayer, this is probably something you do not want to see. Rail cars hauling pricey military equipment off the rails and
Right,
on
okay,
the ground.
so I'd imagine
This
from here
happened
we
in
got to
Colorado
stabilize
Springs,
that.
Colorado on October 9th, 2023, not far from Fort Carson. These photos are courtesy of the Stratmore Hills Fire District.
Got to do
According to
this
4th
here
Infantry Division
and
Public Affairs
on
Officer
here.
Lieutenant Colonel
It's a
Joseph
cool set, this. Obviously, it's one of the more iconic. See, I was talking about this in last night's stream. For 14 years, this was the biggest Clone Wars set ever made. Obviously, it was done out by the Venator, but this is set costs more, the same as, if not more than a Venator. Honestly, it's worth it.
According to a rail equipment accident incident report submitted to the Federal Railroad Administration by Union Pacific, an investigation found this derailment was caused by, quote,
I don't need this section at the moment. Now, the cockpit is next. Now, when the set fell and got obliterated, the cockpit actually survived.
Okay, so
I'm going to keep what I've got here and repair what needs repaired on it.
Just don't use anymore. But there's one thing that I'm definitely not deleting, and that would be the free Upside app. It doesn't waste your time or involve any doom scrolling or brain rot. It just saves you money. I mean, it fits into my life because it's just so easy to use. I pull up to the gas station, Open the app and claim the offer. As you guys know, I travel all over the Southeast making these videos, and it's really easy to
Yes,
find
these
participating
bits
gas
I
stations
need to
in
put
the
back
Upside
in.
app. And
Some
by the
parts
way,
just got
there may
ripped
even be
right
cashback
out.
opportunities at the grocery store
Obviously, I
or your
expected the
favorite
set to be
restaurant.
damaged, but me and my friend
Upside has
initially
given back
thought
$1
we could
billion
just
to
rebuild
its
from what was
users.
there.
To find
It
out
was
how
in
much you can
reasonable
earn,
chunks, but it
download
was
the
the
free Upside
Technic
app and
that
use
was,
promo
you know,
code LOCOMOTIVE to
unfortunately
get an extra
compromised.
25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas using promo code LOCOMOTIVE. Okay, let's get back to the video. In 2025, the country and the world got a chance to see how our military uses the railroad. It's late in the afternoon on June 5th, 2025, and it certainly looks like a normal day in Fairburn, Georgia. Down the tracks, a CSX local is busy switching cars. But the cargo that's about to blow through here is anything but normal. This train is led by a partially camouflaged locomotive number 1776. The engine is nicknamed the Spirit of our Armed Forces. Behind that, a blue locomotive celebrating CSX's company culture. But
There we
what'll
go,
really
that's
catch your
stronger,
eye
because
is
these
all the
bits,
military vehicles this train is
well, the
pulling.
Technic pins, I
I'm
gotta
talking
put another
about
one in, but
Abrams
those
tanks,
are some bits that
Paladin
got ripped
howitzers,
right
Bradley
out.
fighting vehicles, Strykers, and more. So where's all this firepower going? Well, it'll eventually be unloaded outside Washington, D.C. and Jessup, Maryland, in preparation for a massive parade that celebrates the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. That branch of the U.S. military was established by the Second Continental Congress on June 14, 1775. It was known then as the Continental Army. No doubt the U.S. Army has had a storied history since then.
That's fine, that's fine.
Now, days before the festivities, all this equipment was loaded up at Fort Hood, a task these soldiers have completed many times.
Now we're cooking. We're starting to, if I can even just get the Technic spine between what I've got there and this would be great. Because when I come home tomorrow or tomorrow morning before, because I work till midnight tomorrow, or today technically.
We do it every time in the National Training Center, Fort Irwin, California.
I want to try and get a stream out just to not lose my streak, and this would probably provide me with the ideal short streak. If all I need to do is like bodywork related stuff to this and add the wings, or even I've just got a small bit of that done.
Soldiers to train,
Uh-huh.
to be ready,
Right.
and it increases their proficiency in conducting this type of operation.
Okay, here's the train arriving in the Washington, D.C. area before the grand celebration. June 14th, 2025 saw troops, vehicles, and aircraft on display in Washington. Of course, the Army's 250th anniversary celebration occurred during peacetime, but trains have been used in conflict since the mid-1800s in Europe. However, their worth was really proven during the American Civil War. During this time, trains held troops, supplies, and equipment. Some railroad cars even served as weapons platforms. Also during the Civil War, a United States military railroad was formed. It operated, constructed, and repaired.
But no, I've gotten a lot more done on this stream than I planned to. I thought initially all I would get done would be those bits I did for the that hang off the main body, but no, I kind of surprised myself.
Played out during the Civil War. And in the 21st century, veterans and other guests boarded a special train to retrace the route and commemorate the sacrifices that were made. It's around 10 a.m. on Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and CSX's office car special is leaving Atlanta.
Right, one second, we'll try to find this bit to clip other parts down. There it is.
About 45 minutes later, an honor guard is welcoming recipients of the Medal of Honor. They'll attend a special event here at the Southern Museum in Kennesaw before getting on the train. And here it is. In the lead, number 1776, named the Spirit of our Armed Forces. It's the middle of the day on a Tuesday, but there's still a decent crowd out here.
Try it.
This will be the
as
sort of a journey covering
accurate
more
as
than 80
possible.
miles to Ringgold, retracing the route of the great locomotive chase during the Civil War. But to appreciate why this trip is happening today, we have to understand what happened way back then.
I'll take out that. Just make this easier.
It all started here in Kennesaw, which was once known as Big Shanty. This is where James J. Andrews, a civilian working for the North, and his group of raiders stole a locomotive and headed toward Chattanooga. Their plan? Destroy telegraph wires and tracks along the way in hopes of disrupting Confederate communications and troop movements. It was all set into motion on the morning of April 12, 1862. The men stole this locomotive, named the General. But the train's crew was not going to let them escape. The Confederate pursuers eventually acquired this locomotive, the Texas, and ran it backwards until the end of the chase. Andrews and his men were unable to take on wood and water and eventually had to ditch the General near Ringgold, Georgia. They were all caught, and James J. Andrews and 7 others were executed. And ultimately, several of the men were the very first.
Oh, nearly knocked the whole box over there.
But what about their Confederate pursuers? Well, they were hailed as heroes in the South, and 3 of them are buried here at Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta. Back in Kennesaw, let's take a close look at the train that's retracing the route of the great locomotive chase. It's known as an office car special and travels all around the CSX system.
I was going to buy a second vehicle for Republic Army that I already own. It would be this one. I do own 2 of the gunships from this era, but I would buy another dropship just for my ATTE. To be fair, that might be something that happens in the next couple of years. I am that dumb.
Typically, trains like these are used for entertaining clients and VIPs and also allowing executives to get a first-hand look at the railroad. Many of the cars here are named for executives who led CSX and its predecessors. And one of the coolest cars here is probably the W. Thomas Rice. Rice was a very successful railroad executive who played an important role in the merger of Seaboard Coastline with the Chessie system, which formed CSX. This car has theater-style seating that faces this giant window that looks out onto the tracks.
I'll stay alive for like
It
another
also has plenty of
15 minutes, and
Just
after
days
that, I'm
before this
just gonna
historic event, the train
go
made
to
a
sleep.
deadhead run to Atlanta.
I'll start relaxing anyway.
CSX numbers 1, 2,
This does relax me, sure, but I still want to take a stream now.
They're all ex-Amtrak F40PH-2s.
But the progress I managed to get on this is brilliant.
CSX 1776 was added to the front. Okay, now, this is a very rare sight. A railroad actually washing its equipment. The CSX office car special got a thorough cleaning before its trip to Kennesaw and Ringgold. And, as you can see, they did a great job. Now, there is a depot here in Kennesaw, but the W&A hasn't seen passenger traffic in a long time. Because of that, a special ramp had to be constructed at this crossing to load the train. And now, with the passengers on board, it's around 1:30 and the train is passing through Ackworth, Georgia. Next stop, Ringgold.
You know what? Fair enough.
You know, more than 160 years after the great locomotive chase and the introduction of the Medal of Honor, members of our military continue to make major sacrifices for this country. This day, this journey, and this train honors them. So, what happened to the engines that were used in the great locomotive chase? Well, both are preserved in Metro Atlanta. The famous General, the one Andrews Raiders stole, is in Kennesaw at the Southern Museum. And the Texas, one of the locomotives that was used to pursue the Raiders, is preserved at the Atlanta History Center, and they're both worth checking out. Fast forward 50 years, and the U.S. was entering another major war. America's military would be fighting a conflict on foreign soil, and many battles would take place in the trenches with weaponry that was more destructive than ever. Like in the Civil War, World War I saw heavy use of railroads to transport troops, supplies, and equipment on both sides. In the U.S., private railroads were nationalized under the United States Railroad Administration. In the government's eyes, the private railroads were not effectively handling the volume of traffic created by the war
One second, I'm
effort.
trying to make out the
Railroads were
instructions here.
also being slowed down by labor issues and antitrust laws. The USRA existed from 1917 until 1920, and during that time, standardized railcar and locomotive designs were introduced. This was known as the USRA standard. The federal government also tried to make railroad operations leaner and streamlined in hopes of getting munitions, supplies, and troops to their destinations more efficiently and quickly. Meanwhile, in Europe, specialized railroads and equipment were being used on or near the front lines. Heavy artillery was extensively used by both sides. Narrow gauge trench railways were built to transport munitions, men, and supplies. They were relatively easy to construct using unskilled labor. Some track was prefabricated while other lines were built from scratch. These lines were often linked up with standard gauge railways that were farther away from the front and out of range of enemy artillery. In this case, soldiers stepped off a standard gauge train and onto the narrow gauge line. Most of the motive power consisted of small tank engines, but some locomotives were gas-powered. Railway guns were also used by both sides during the First World War. These were often the size of the gun you'd find on a naval vessel and could fire very long distances. In fact, some were just repurposed naval guns. Guns of this size would have been very difficult to transport over the roads of the time. But these specialized weapons
There we
had
go,
a
we're
major
back on
flaw.
track.
Aiming them, more specifically traversing the gun that was mounted on the railroad car, was difficult. In some cases, curved track would be built to get the gun pointed in the right direction, and the gun's recoil also had to be accounted for. During the war, some countries also developed armored trains. They had no problem carrying heavy weapons and thick armor plating, but obviously their mobility was limited. After a short period of peace, the world was once again at war, and railroads would play a critical part in the Allied march to victory. The use of armored trains would continue into the Second World War. This Polish armored train was destroyed by the Germans as they began their invasion. World War II would also see the development of one of the largest weapons ever built. Known as the Heavy Gustav, this German 31.5-inch railway gun rode on two parallel tracks. It saw some action as the Germans battled the Soviet Union. The United States would soon enter the war following the devastating Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. Although iterations of it had existed in the past, the modern form of the U.S. Army's Transportation Corps was established in 1942. Within that was the military.
I know this has not been my
structured
work
very
in
much
terms of
like a
streams
civilian railroad.
because, you know,
It had folks who
it
repaired
was
equipment,
unannounced
maintained the right-of-way, and people
and
dispatched,
commentary's
and
not been
of course,
great, but the
operating
progress
trains.
on the build
One of
though.
its most amazing
Everyone
accomplishments
got
during
that
World
frame
War II was
finished
landing
and we managed to get
locomotives
this much
and
of the
rolling
cockpit
stock
done. I wonder
shortly
if
after
we're able to
today.
attach any of
This equipment would be
the
used to
sides to
get
each other.
France's railways rolling again. U.S. forces used vessels called landing ship tanks, or LSTs, that
I've
were
already built all
specifically
that.
modified for railroad use to get everything across the channel and into France. And quick-setting concrete was used to temporarily embed rails in the beaches. Of course, the United States also provided locomotives and other rail equipment to its allies. Manufacturers had to make sure that equipment could handle the tighter clearances of
Continue
European
building.
bridges, station platforms, and tunnels. Locomotives
I've
for
already done
narrow,
that.
standard, and broad gauges also had to be designed and built. American manufacturers also had to adapt their designs with things like
I've already done
different
the
couplers
stickers.
and braking
Speaking of which,
systems.
mine,
Okay, so
I
here's a
think
huge
I'm gonna
adaptation.
look. I
Some
have these
cheeks had
custom
their rubber
stickers.
tires swapped
So
out
fun
for
fact,
steel
right? The
wheels.
nose on this ship,
They were used to
the whole
circuit
sticker
rail
design
lines
with it,
and
right,
occasionally pull
is shared with
railcars.
the 2008
This scene
gunship.
shows
I've got
the
two of those
Mountbatten,
gunships.
Supreme Allied
One is
Commander,
normal
Southeast
stickers that
Asian
you got in the
Command,
set. The other one's
riding
a
the rails
custom
in
set I
Burma.
got off this
While
place
the
of
men
these
of the
custom
military
stickers.
railway service
I
focused
may do
on
a short
operating
where you
railroads,
guys can
Allied
comment.
pilots were
I'm gonna
given the
either,
task of
because these are
destroying
starting to
them.
bubble and look quite horrible. Adding the custom
Gun
stickers to
cameras
be a
called
different,
so-called
a custom
train
legion on my
busters
dropship.
show enemy
Let me know
trains
down
and
below.
rail yards obliterated from above.
Or if I'm gonna buy a replica
The
sticker
bomb that
sheet.
hit this yard was powerful enough to lodge this steam engine and tender up in the air. Meanwhile, this locomotive ended up in a crater. And unfortunately, this French locomotive was also a target of a bombing raid.
Right.
All
Oh,
right,
we
take a look
did
at the
get
side of this
to
pilot's
attach the
plane.
two together.
It shows he destroyed an enemy Iron Horse. Now, military and resistance forces were also taught how to sabotage enemy lines. This was actually harder than you might think. A 12-inch gap made with explosives in this rail didn't even slow the train down. According to this training film, long gaps offset on each rail would need to be made to ensure a substantial derailment. When it was all said and done, World War II would see the deployment of millions of men. According to a Popular Science article from February 1945, 42,000 men and 2,000 officers were recruited from America's railroad companies to use their trade to help the war effort. In fact, the big Class 1 railroads actually sponsored operating and shop battalions, meaning their employees became military railroaders who were shipped out overseas. And back home, civilian railroaders did their part hauling military equipment, supplies, and troops. The conflicts in Korea and Vietnam saw the U.S. military rely more on the native railroads in those countries. U.S. servicemen would take more of an advisory, administrative, and supervisory role. But, like in previous wars, railroads were still seen as prime military targets. Here you see some South Vietnamese troops, along with a U.S. advisor, assigned to protect rail shipments as they traveled through the jungle. Although strategic bombers and ballistic missiles got most of the attention during the Cold War, the U.S. government was still prepared to utilize railroads all over the world if war broke out. At the beginning of the Cold War, both the American Locomotive Company, or ALCO, in partnership with General Electric, and General Motors' Electromotive Division, built special diesel-electric locomotives that had multi-gauge trucks and a narrow loading gauge, allowing them to operate on railroads that had tighter clearances than the lines in America. Jumping ahead to the end of the Cold War, and the U.S. would begin to develop trains that would be able to carry and launch missiles. They could be moved around America's rail network and would hopefully be able to avoid detection by the Soviets. In December of 1986, the White House announced the research and development of specialized trains.
I'll attach it at one side, then I'll get that piece.
This diagram shows how a train would be made up. According to the National Museum of the United States Air Force, 50 Peacekeeper missiles would be deployed on 25 USAF trains, and each train would carry 2 missiles. Here's one of the prototype launch cars. It's currently on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. Now, it's unclear if trains would be disguised like commercial rail cars, artist rendition. Ultimately, the Peacekeeper rail garrison system never became operational, and with the Cold War over, the program was canceled in 1991. But at the beginning of the 1990s, the military continued to rely on civilian railroads in the U.S. to transport military equipment. The same was true during the Iraq War in the 2000s. During that time, coalition forces did provide some
let me
assistance
just
to the Iraqi railways,
get that
including
piece that
protecting trains
dropped
from
it.
insurgents. As we've seen, railroads are now used almost exclusively to transport military equipment, but some countries still use them as weapons platforms.
Hopefully that's not the only attachment points for this. I don't remember. Last time I built this set was late 2024 when I fucking bought it.
Emerge, and the roof of one of the boxcars starts to open. What rises from the rail car is deadly, a short-range ballistic missile. A montage of different camera angles show its successful launch. The video then shows a second missile rise from the boxcar and blast off. Fortunately, this was all just a test, but it does raise some concerns. The website 38north.org analyzed this video. It's from North Korean state media. They say trains like this could be disguised as civilian freight trains, could be hidden in tunnels or camouflaged on sidings, and decoy trains could also be deployed. Fortunately, Allied forces could indiscriminately attack rail lines to reduce the train's effectiveness. As I said, this video shows short-range ballistic missiles, which are commonly carried by large, all-terrain trucks. But the advantage of a rail vehicle is that it can carry heavier, long-range, intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs.
It's not a complete attachment, but it does fit in the
deadly cargo like
Hey Rex.
At the end of the
Wait,
Cold War,
I'm Rex,
the
damn
Soviet
it.
Union also developed a missile train, but
Oh well,
that
I need
program was
to, I'll have to
canceled.
go back and learn my name.
The armored train you see here is in use by the Russian Federation. The country reportedly has multiple trains like this. Russia is a giant country with a large rail network, and it still uses trains to move its troops, supplies, and equipment. And the train here may be a way to protect its logistical efforts. This train appears to be equipped with thick steel plating, anti-aircraft guns, and even an armored locomotive. Here in the U.S., many railroads have paid tribute to veterans and active duty service members by painting commemorative locomotives. Now, I've already shown you CSX's locomotive numbered 1776, but here's another engine that came.
Honestly, we're going to be ending this live in a couple of minutes. For me, it's like, what? What time is it? For me, it's just went 1 in the morning, but I was at work all day, so I'm only just now getting this one out.
Okay, here's Norfolk Southern's honoring
But
veterans
look,
locomotive.
it's not
It was
complete.
unveiled
There's
in
still
2012.
things
And
I
in
need to do, but
2018,
we have
Kansas City
completed the
Southern
basic
unveiled
skeleton
the
of the
engine.
dropship,
Of course,
repairing
there
it,
are many more specially painted
because it was
locomotives out
all
there that I
this
just don't
back
have
bit
images of to show you.
kind of
So, are
survived
there
when
any
it
rail
fell.
owners in the
But
military
this
today?
Technic,
Well, the
the
Army still
note, the
has a limited
Technic
number of
parts
reservists
inside
to fill
just
this role.
couldn't
They're
hold up to
designated
all the
as
stress,
APU, Railway
and they're
Specialists,
primarily
Army's
what gave in.
Transportation Corps. According to the Army, these men and women supervise and operate the Army's locomotives. They also help with rail planning, coordinate the use of host nation or contracted rail assets, and carry out instructions received from signal towers, switches, and other trains. Countless military railroaders have been trained here on the Fort Eustis Military Railroad in Virginia. In fact, other branches of the armed forces send their personnel here for railroad training and licensing.
So I was only
However,
planning to do an
civilian
hour, and
railroaders
we're
and
now
contractors
over that.
currently handle much
But
of the railroad
we've
work
not
being
got
done
too
at
much
military
left in
installations
terms
in
of
the
what
US.
needs building,
We've
so
now
we
reached the
are
end of
getting
this session.
somewhere.
Some of the topics we covered
I'm
will
very
probably be
happy to
explored
see
further.
this set
I'm sure I could
coming
make an
together
entire
again, because I have
documentary about
missed
the
having this
railroad
one on
use during
display.
World War II, but we'll leave
It's a
things
cool
here for
set.
now. I hope
It's
you
one of
found
like those
something worth watching
this
If
in
you
Cloud
did,
City
I'd
or some
encourage
like
you
the
to share
rarer
this
sets I
video
own,
with
so
your
it's
friends
nice to
and
be able to
family.
see it,
I'd
being
also invite you
displayed
to
again.
subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
So we left that up, and my friend had sat it on these. It's looking good. But anyway, I'm gonna pause what's on in the background. I'll quickly show you the progress that we've got on this thing. So obviously we've built up all this, that's all sorted, because when this set fell, this obliterated. My friend had made the choice to set it like this. Because those are not feet, those are just decorative. And it fell from that shelf there. But that's the handle for, picking up the set, sorted. That's all it this all gets hidden. And of course, this is the front. Now, this set being from 2009, some old sets, their stickers never hold up. You can see these stickers are starting to go a bit funny on both sides. And it's especially this side. So I do have an alternative, and I'm going to do a video possibly talking about it. Now, I could go find replica stickers if I wanted to somewhere online. Oh, crap. 1 second. I've had quite a few things just fall from my shelf randomly and hit my guitar. Well, that's great. So, as I was saying, right, those stickers that you saw, they're not in good condition. But I have an alternative, and I've had them sitting here for a few months. I bought a whole bunch of them because you can buy these stupidly cheap from this guy in Germany. I couldn't resist doing so. Some of these, but I was like, I'm worried I would never find someone doing something like this again. So I have 2 of the Republic gunships from this era, and I decorated one with a set of these, to make it different, and it looks brilliant. But I'll bring the camera over and show you once I have a drink. Check this. So obviously these are the nose art stickers, right? And as you saw, they're not looking too great. And these are custom stickers by this guy in Germany I found in a Lego Star Wars group who makes custom stickers that could fit on these. Now, I'm going to make a short, and I'll let you guys pick. I can either use one of these,
Or alternatively, the same guy I did check earlier today on my break, he does sell a custom sticker sheet of what you got, because on this set you have the choice of a droid's head being ripped off, like we have here, or you can have a Wampa with its teeth showing, like a war kind of thing. But we kind of pick some of these stickers instead. So I'll do a short where you guys can pick. I'm either buying replica stickers to be the originals, or we're using a set from this. And I'll let you guys pick the one, but I'll make that short after this live ends. Unless you guys have got comments now, but you know what, I'll just end, you can comment on the short. But yeah, thanks for sticking around, guys, while we got this built. It's again, like I said, I missed having this one on display, so it'll be nice. And then we can redo the shelving the way I want to do it. But I'll see you guys in the next live. Probably a short one, just working on this. I'll try and get an hour in. Like I said, tomorrow's an awkward day, but we'll go from there. See ya.